these people are just, so unaccomplished. But Linda McCormick was a math teacher and an attorney. She practiced in family law, and her husband Jim is an engineer, right? So yeah, they have not accomplished anything in that. And Linda came in to Longevity under one of our verticals and has fallen in love with so many different products in longevity other than the heritage makers. And what's crazy is that Jim, who was really not a part of her business when she came in, is now, because of his testimonial with the 90 for Life products and what that has done for his health, he is a huge advocate of Dr. Wallach and the 90 for Life and the Healthy Body Pack. And so Linda McCormick, come on up. What I love about Linda is that she will always give you straight talk, right? It's true. And I am so appreciative of that. Like, don't mince words. Like, clear is kind, right? And so Linda she is the person that will say, this is what we need to do. This is unclear. This is a system that I like. This doesn't work. And I think having somebody like that in your business is unbelievable. Yeah. And they moved all the way from Texas to Colorado. We have a lot of Texas to Colorado comments here. And partly because they wanted a new locale, but also partly because they wanted to grow their business. And so I am so thankful to Star, Linda McCormick. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
Denise asked me to talk about HempFX product and using that as a way to either start your business, jumpstart your business, fill out your business, whatever. I am, as she mentioned, I did the scrapbooking. I love the spices. I love the oil. I've never loved anything like HempFX. I am serious, and I'm going to tell you the reasons why. But I want 2 volunteers. Anybody, I need at least 1 person. Anybody in the room hurt? Anything hurt right now? What hurts?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Oh my gosh, and I forgot to bring mine.
Okay, I'll just try.
I'm so sorry.
No, we have a sample set right there.
There's
Yeah, right there. No, we opened them so we could do it. That's what Tom said. Open a set and people.
Anybody else got?
We can pass it around.
Where'd you put them? Very low.
Huh?
Where'd you put them?
Right out here.
I
Already prepared. Go ahead.
Okay. Anybody else heard it? It'd be nice to have 2.
Well, okay.
Okay.
My net. Okay, sorry.
But you've used the product before.
Oh, dang. We didn't say that.
Well, yeah. Figure out who's
All right.
Okay. So this is part of how I do business with this product. I've been known to ask total strangers, are you hurting?
And then they start crying. No.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's hurting. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so this product is called Soothe. This is one of the 3 hemp products, HempFX products. It's a lotion. It's got a little bit of peppermint oil in it, so you will feel a little cooling first. And that kind of puzzles people at first. They're thinking that's what's doing it, is the mentholatum kind of deal, right? So when you're putting this on somebody, tell them it's going to take about 5 or 10 minutes to see, and that's the time for the peppermint oil to kind of go away, and then they really realize it's something hemp. So where are you hurting? Okay, so Denise had to teach that she was putting like 4 or 5 squirts.
I'm just waiting it. Like, let me show you.
I know.
Now that's good if you want your residual income to go up.
I tell everybody you guys use at least 6 squirts.
So, but seriously, okay, but let me back up. When somebody gets one of these things, tell them to take the lid off and screw it back on. We need to tell the company that it's not getting seeded well once we're in production because it's taking too long to get it.
Oh yeah,
There's like an air
But when you
bubble
do it,
in there.
unscrew it, put it back on, it'll stay
it's not just that. We went up to Telluride and the altitude change, and we came back and we were like,
Oh, right.
that's what
Yeah.
it was. We finally figured it out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What if it's altitude here?
Yeah, it could be because, you know, it almost looks like it gets an air bubble in
Yeah,
there. So you
Yeah.
pump,
But
and then
once
you'll
you
some-
get it back,
Yeah.
you know,
See, nobody primed this one.
I didn't prime
There we
that
go,
one.
there we go. Okay.
We just opened it.
Ever.
Oh, you don't do it for them?
Yeah, there's been a few times I've offered and they're like, well, I really need to go to the restroom. Don't touch it. You're like, no.
Somebody start a timer. So have a seat and raise your hand if you feel a difference. And we'll, okay, who's gonna time? Steve, will you time for us? Okay. All right, so where are you? Wrist, elbow.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna put it on this, on your finger. You're going to rub it in where it hurts.
Hold it straight up.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
negative.
Oh.
We'll use one.
All right.
Okay, now observe. This thing lives in my purse. And if I speak to somebody and they have pain in a place that's not quite appropriate for me to be seeing or dealing with, I just give them a little bag and they go to the bathroom, they put it on, and they come back. So you really, my recommendation is carry this with you all the time. See how easy that was?
Well, give me that other one. I'll get it all primed.
Huh? Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so I need a timer for, what's your name? Erica.
All-time Erica.
Okay. So if you feel a difference, let us know and we'll see how long it took. So some of the things I have learned in the very short time period that we've had HempFX is that people, especially maybe my generation, who grew up in the 60s and everybody was doing marijuana and it's like, either you were into it or you were not totally into it. And so to find out there was a product that we were going to sell that was kind of, I didn't know. And legally it could count 0.3% of the THC. And I wouldn't have touched this stuff. If they had not removed everything, I would not have tried it. So just be aware that there's some recent education for some people. They're not going to be comfortable until maybe you tell your story. Because even though I knew it had 0 THC, the first time I took the capsule, the uplift, the uplift capsule. This was at my uplift Hallie's house. I was kind of, oh, what's going to happen?
I start like dancing on the chair.
I really did. I was nothing came. So this is the second lesson I want you to know. I'm going to give you the science behind it first. Homeostasis is what the CBD oil does for you. It brings you to center. So for like your mood, if your mood is too high, it brings you down a little bit. If your mood is too low, it brings you up. Okay, so if you're in no pain and you take a pain product, what's it going to do? So if somebody said, oh, I took a product and it didn't do anything, well, maybe there was nothing that needed to be done. Okay, so kind of prepare yourself for that kind of reaction. So, feel anything? Yeah, it's time to go away.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. My experience has been between 5 and 10 minutes to get almost all the way, and then it continues to build. So homeostasis. So bear that in mind. It might not. Okay. And this is how you know it's not a drug. The drug's going to do something to you, right? You're going to feel something if it's a synthetic drug. This is a natural product. If you need it, it's going to work. If you don't need it or something, then you're not going to see any reaction. Get and use the products because you got to have your own stories, right? I mean, you can use other people's stories until you get your own stories. But I recommend having. Where did I go? The
Did you put it back in your thing?
Oh, maybe I did. The Soothe and the Uplift. This one they're denominated for mood. Each of them is denominated for a function, but it all has CBD oil in it. So you can take various products for various things. So this one is supposed to be for mood. But for me, it works on, I'm sitting back and my hip started hurting. I took one of these, my hip doesn't hurt anymore. Okay.
Wow.
So it really doesn't matter which product you take. The one for sleep has the highest percentage of CBD oil in it, but then it's going to make you drowsy. So you don't want to take that during the day. If, for somebody, for example, with the Hurl, use that one, but take it at night, and then by the next day, it's going to be in your system. Okay? So use them, carry them, because everybody's hurting, and you'll find an opportunity to share it with them. What I like beyond, way beyond, is the value, the effectiveness of the product, is that we now got a plan to use it. The company has everything in place.
Yeah.
You know? So this is how I do, yes.
Can we buy it yet? I can't remember when it comes out.
Yeah.
My understanding is you can now call in with a credit card and get the bundle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
Extension 5.
Yeah, it's the Utah office.
Mm-hmm.
And they will mail it out to your customer or to you. So the way I am doing the business is very, very simple and very, everybody has a way that they need to feel authentic about how they're doing business. This is how I feel authentic. Make a friend, have a friend, old friend, new friend, whatever. Somehow have a coffee with them, coffee shop interview is awesome. Whatever it is, have a conversation with them. Sample the product on them. Send them 2 videos, show them the website. Sign them up, get them into the Longevity University. The things that we didn't have in the past were the videos.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the Longevity Go-To app on your phone, you gotta get it. How many people have watched the HempFX video on? Okay, it's a great video, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about the Betterment video?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is so simple to put a product on somebody. Did it work? Oh, feel anything?
Feeling good.
Okay, okay. So how long was that? 5 minutes? Okay, you're good. It's gone.
I like it better than my pen. That was like so relaxed.
So is that not compelling? If you're talking to a stranger or a friend and you put that on them, they're going to be asking you for the product. You don't have to sell it. And that's the first time here's what it is. We want immediate gratification, right? The 90 for life, I have a wonderful retirement because my husband can walk, hike, and we can travel. It takes 3 months to know that you're going to get to that point. It's hard to get people to commit to that one, but if you get them on this and they say, that worked, maybe this other stuff will work. So it's your doorway into what we can do that can really change their lives. So really, that's it. I mean, put the product on, carry the product, get your own story, put the product on them, show them the videos. I have a friend who met her, she wanted to add, we were in a group setting, and she wanted me to talk about the HempFX, and I really kind of shut her down because it just wasn't the appropriate time to be doing that. But the next day, I called her and said, yeah, I know, I didn't mean to shut you down, but I just didn't feel it was my place at that point to talk about this. Would you like to have coffee and talk about it? So we had coffee and we talked, and she's an extraordinary person. We had a wonderful time talking, and eventually we did get around to talking about the HempFX, and I did put the product on her. And she did like it, and it did work, and then she said to me, there might be a business opportunity around that. I didn't bring it up. So I'm just saying this opens a simple way. We have the resources. The company's given us what we need. And last thing, do you know what's happening to longevity stocks?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, booming.
220% since inception.
Wow.
So investors know we got something.
Yeah.
We should know we got something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
awesome. And again, it goes to a system. Carry the product, share the product, enrollment. That's it, you know, so simple. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, the other night I texted her, I said, hey, would you, I know she loves the ride, and would you be willing to talk about HempFX? And she said, absolutely. And she said something like, are you using it? And I said, and I was sitting in bed, I'm like, oh yeah, I just used like 4 squirts here, 2 squirts here. I think I had a couple on my feet. And she goes, why are you using so much? And I said, well, you know, more is better. But, no, she said, you know, treat it like you would the essential oil, which totally made sense to me, you know. And yeah, I definitely wasn't too much. I was wondering why I was going through 1 bottle every week. And then the unscrewing at the top is brilliant because the other night I opened up my new one after the week, and I'm like my finger was getting a workout, and it wouldn't. And so finally I did unscrew the top. I was actually going to use a Q-tip to like smooth it out. Then I put it back on, and it did come up. So that's good. So thank you, Linda. It's 2 o'clock, you guys.
I know.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So I'll do a quick. I'll do sort of a clip note version of what I was gonna do, which is all good because you hear me all the time. But one of my values, 2 of my values are learning and love, right? And so under the learning category, I started reading. I love. Somebody should count how many times I say learning and love. I love Brene Brown. All right, and she just came out. I bought her book two months ago on a pre-order basis, and her newest book, Dare to Lead, just came out Wednesday. And so, wouldn't you know, I started reading it on Wednesday, and I thought, I gotta read this book in between now and Friday so that I can teach on it. And yesterday I sat down and Joel said, you know, do you read 30 minutes a day? Well, I did 2 weeks of reading in 1 day yesterday because I read for 7 hours. And,
oh my goodness.
I did. I sat down and I wanted to read that book because I think that she's one of the most important researchers of our time. She studies shame, for one, not a popular subject, and but her Daring to Lead is so great because she starts out talking about vulnerability, and she says that the definition of vulnerability. Now think of this from the standpoint of what we do in network marketing. The definition of vulnerability, the emotion that we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Right?
Right.
That is the epitome of what we experience as professional network marketers. Uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And so when you look at who's in this room, is all I know is every single one of you are so courageous because you have had to put yourself at risk of emotional exposure, uncertainty, and emotional risk, and those 3 things, right? And it's not the average person that's willing to do that. And so the people are out there, but we just have to find them. So the physics of vulnerability is this. If we're brave enough, often enough, we will fall. Daring is not saying I'm willing to risk failure. Daring is saying I know I will eventually fall and fail and I'm still in. Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
When we sit down with people and we share with them what our passion of this profession is, you don't know the outcome. And you're putting yourself out there every single time. And it is scary. And human beings don't like scary. We like predictable, right? It goes back to that whole reptilian brain that says fight or flight. If things get scary, I'm out of here. And so that's why it takes a particular breed of person to do this profession. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So first and foremost, I want you to give yourselves a huge pat on the back because you're not the average Joe. Because uncertainty and risk and vulnerability are so scary. It takes a huge amount of courage to do what we do.
Yeah.
So gaining someone's trust is the most important thing we do in network marketing. And Nikki talked about this a little bit earlier. But when you're talking to people about network marketing and about longevity, you know, and you've heard this before, people are buying you. They don't really, even if they have an experience with the pain cream and they go, oh, this stuff works, for them to say, yes, I'm going to sign up, for them to even take the bigger step of saying, I want to partner with you and build a business, takes an incredible amount of trust. In order to build the trust, there has to be vulnerability. So they're not buying the product, they're not buying the comp plan, they're not buying longevity, they're not buying the profession, they're buying you because they don't know anything about all those other things. And it doesn't really matter. They're buying you because they're putting their hope and their trust in you. So trust and vulnerability go hand in hand, and we need to trust to be vulnerable, and we need to be vulnerable in order to build trust.
Wow.
Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
You can see that. Trust is earned in the smallest of moments. Paying attention, listening, and gestures of genuine care and connection. Trust is the stacking and layering of small moments and reciprocal vulnerability over time. To betray one is to destroy both. Do you see, this is why what we do is so important, right? When, like Nikki and Joel were talking about, when somebody says, I see, I believe you enough, I trust you enough to be able to dream again, to have the smallest of hopes that my life can somehow be different, the responsibility of you at that point as a leader to partner with them, to help them make that smallest of adjustments, that heart growth is huge, right? So I think it's all fascinating because, love you guys, because this is like the science behind what we do. This is why the coffee shop interview works, right? And when you say, I know what color toenail polish you're wearing, Steve. No, I'm kidding. I didn't do it.
Stop it.
You know, that's a grand gesture. Knowing what dreams and hopes and what your team leaders, what's important to them, that you have to know that. Okay, so this is the other. As a leader, it's important to create psychological safety, whereby it's possible, and we talked about this before a little bit, whereby it's possible to give feedback, have difficult conversations without the need to tiptoe around the truth. Trust and respect looks Trust and respect builds a culture of confidence. One of the most valuable tools you have as a leader is the sentence, what does support look like from me?
That is really good.
What does support look like for me? So if you're not doing coaching calls with your people or your person, maybe you just have one business builder right now, but if you're not checking in, if not daily, weekly, and clear is kind, like being clear, what does support look like? Is it checking in once a day? Is it having a coaching call once a week? Now here's the other piece, is that people don't really like to be held accountable. But in order to be successful, there has to be a certain amount of accountability. And so as your leader, you may say, oh no, once a month is good. I get that, but I think that in order for you to be able to accomplish your dreams, what you told me, you being able to buy an RV and go on the road with your husband and live your life across the country having coffee, then I think that we need to really check in once a week, do a coaching call, and you know what? Why don't you text me once a day and just give me a little, maybe a little win. What happened great? What worked today? Okay.
Yeah, that's really good.
So, boundaries. So the title of my talk is Vulnerability, Trust, Boundaries, Feedback, Courage. So boundaries. Okay, so vulnerability minus boundaries is confession, manipulation, desperation, or shock and awe. So you see that on Facebook all the time when people go, they just throw up about every horrible thing in their life, right? Right. Like, there's some things that you're like, oh, hon, you shouldn't have put that on Facebook. Like, that's like way too much. And it's a need for attention, or just a poor me, right? So if you're ever feeling resentful about someone on your team, it's almost always related to a lack of boundaries. I'm not. Nikki's like, what? So if you're feeling resentment about someone, it's almost always a lack of boundaries. Can you see an example of that in your life? And it doesn't even have to be in your business. But that person, like how I picture that is the little kid that's always like tugging on your, and you just want to like push them away. That resentment is because you haven't said, hey, quit pulling on my shirt. That doesn't work for me. Clear is kind. Okay. So one of the hardest parts about what we do is that we are surrounded by uneducated and sometimes well-intentioned people. I'll say it that way. Right? They don't know what network marketing is. Maybe they experienced, the bad taste that people get in their mouth about network marketing usually comes from people who have presented in a wrong way. They've invited a wrong way. They've done it stealth mode. They've manipulated. And so that gives the entire industry a bad name, and we deserve more. And so here's the one I want to tell you. I want you to first take one little sheet of paper and then pass it around. Be careful where you listen, who you listen to and get feedback from. Okay? It is super important. Unless you're in the arena getting your ass kicked on occasion, I'm not interested in or open to your feedback. There are a million cheap seats filled with people who will never be brave with their lives, but are willing to spend every ounce of energy they have hurling advice and judgment at those who dare greatly. there we go. And they do it sometimes from an act of love because they're uneducated. They don't want you to get hurt. You see that a lot of times with spouses, right? You see that with people, a lot of old high school friends that go, oh, you don't want to, you really don't want to do that. I heard that, this Sally did that thing and she got taken for thousands of dollars. You don't want to do that. You hear it from people who are so scared of living their life powerfully that they want to keep everyone around them in the pot, like the lobsters. With the lobsters in the pot?
Yes.
You put water in a pot, you put the lobsters in, you start to boil the water, and if one lobster is trying to get out, the other lobsters claws it back down into the boiling pot. That's what some people do. And sometimes it's well-intended, and sometimes it's just, they just don't want to see you achieve, because then that shows them their lack of achievement, right?
Yeah.
So on this little piece of paper, I want you to write the names of people whose opinion truly matters to you. And this is your square squad. And it's small because I want you to have like 3 or 4 names tops on it. Write down those names and then reach out and share a little gratitude with them. And I'll write this on the board. I can't write and talk at the same time. So I can either be Vanna or I can. But what you're going to say to them is, listen, I am clear on whose opinions matter to me. Thank you for being one of those people. I'm grateful that you care enough to be honest and real with me. Okay? I'll write it down. Okay. I'll write it down. And so this list of people, these are not your yes people. These are not the people that go, oh no, but you're great. They're not those people. They're the people that love and respect you enough to be straight and honest with you. So in the book, Dare to Lead, Brene Brown talks about those are the people that are, she calls it rumbling. RUMBLE, rumble, to rumble. Like a rumble is, let's rumble. With that's code for let's have an honest and authentic conversation with openness and vulnerability. That's really what a rumble is, okay? These are the people that you're willing to rumble with and are willing to rumble with you. So, okay, okay, so Joseph Campbell, and I talked about, it's so funny because I talked about him a little bit earlier about the hero's journey, but he says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So what is the treasure that you seek, and what is the cave that you fear to enter? And when Nikki was talking about Callie's saying, you're fired. What she was saying is the treasure that she was seeking is to be a leader. And the cave that she feared to enter was the cave of, I don't know if I can do it on my own. And so at the point when she said, you're fired, she entered the cave of, I know I can do it on my own. Right? Isn't that cool? So what is it that you seek, and what is it that you fear? Because you have to go through that fear in order to get to what you seek. When I got the email from Eric and Marina Worre that very first time to speak on stage in front of 5,000 people, I was equally terrified and had incredible gratitude. But I also knew that in saying yes, I was walking into that cave. I knew that after that point, I would no longer be the same person. And that was scary, and it was exciting, and it was scary. Right? So more often, we choose courage over comfort so that we can serve others. That means having a purpose greater than ourselves. In network marketing, we have the ability to combine courage, connection, and meaning into the recipe of what we do every day. Courage, connection, and meaning. And again, going back to the Tony Robbins quote of happiness equals growth plus contribution. I mean, we have such an unbelievably huge blessing in that in order to be successful in network marketing, we have to raise others up. That's like nothing else out there, right? It's total win-win. So when I look at my values of learning, I love personal development. There was a post I put up yesterday about, I was in Singapore and somebody said to me, oh my gosh, so-and-so just said, oh, why is Denise always going off and doing all this, personal development and trying to find herself? And I heard that, I heard it from, not from out of the mouth, and that I heard it from somebody else, and I said, oh, that's so funny, because that implies that I don't know, to find yourself means that you don't know where you are to begin with, and what I find, one of my values is learning. So personal development is a huge, huge thing for me. And so what I'm doing is I'm not trying to find myself, I'm trying to uncover myself more so that I can live clearly and authentically and be able to serve others in a more powerful way, right? So yeah, we have the ability to combine courage, connection, and meaning into the recipe of what we do every day. And Tom often says that he sells hope. So the opposite of hope is despair, and we see people in despair all the time. Rob Bell says that despair is the belief that tomorrow will be just like today, right? And when you're barely able to keep your head above water and just to be able to do what you do in order to come home and feed your family and get up and do it again tomorrow, that's despair. And in CNN Money Magazine, May 18th, they did a study saying that 43% of the population does not have enough resources in order to adequately pay for housing, transportation, food, and childcare. 43% of Americans can't afford basic necessities. We have a lot of despair out there, right? So you have the answer. When you find the courage to enter the cave, you're never going in to secure your own treasure or your own wealth. You face your fears in order to find the power and wisdom to serve others. And I won't, I'll write this on the wall so you can take a photo. But I want to pass out one of these too. And this is a list of values. So this goes hand in hand with the coffee shop interview. This goes hand in hand with partnering with your leaders, because when you know what your values are and what other people's values are, that's what motivates and inspires them. That's what's underneath their hopes and dreams, right? So don't pick out a whole, there's like 100 on here. Don't pick out 20. Whittle it down to 2. And I know that's a lot, but what you'll find is you'll find one that sort of encapsulates a couple of them, okay? And maybe next, oh, you got one? Next Super Saturday, I'll go into more about values. But that's it, you guys. I love you. Okay, you guys, we got, yes!
I'm gonna write on the board.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you guys. So what I need for you to do is to reach down under your chair
And if you have a pink sticky note,
Winner.
you
Winner,
are a
winner, chicken
winner.
dinner.
Everybody.
I can't even barely lift this bag down. So, let us borrow that really quick. Yeah, we'll just start. You guys, I mean, we did all kinds of fun stuff today, so hopefully. So,
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Oh, that's a. And if you don't know, this is one of these cheeky pillbacks. You could, we're not giving this away today. Oh, I know. I want you to see how big it is. You can put a small child in here.
There you go.
Golly. Yeah. And
But will he
it's got
stay in there?
plastic lining for bottles and all kinds of stuff. But it. Oh.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. So I have the PTT return.
Oh, good. Just put it on the shelf, take your name off the board.
Ready? Sweet.
All right, you guys, thank you. We're done. I'm talking to the camera. Thank you.